Every 66 seconds, another senior in America is told they have dementia. By the time you finish this story, dozens of lives will be forever changed. We've been conditioned to believe this is simply the price of aging, that memory loss and confusion arrive like gray hair and wrinkles. But what if that belief is a lie? What if the real culprit isn't age at all, but the pills stacked neatly in your medicine cabinet? The tablets you reach for at night to sleep, the little capsules for heartburn, the prescriptions meant to calm your nerves, they may be slowly stealing the very memories that make you who you are. And here's the part that cuts the deepest. The pharmaceutical industry has known for decades. While families watch their loved ones fade, companies collect billions in profit. Yet hidden in medical journals and quiet studies is proof too powerful to ignore. In the next moments, we will shine a light on the 9 most dangerous medications linked to rapid dementia. Drugs so common they may already be in your home. This isn't fear-mongering. It's the truth every senior deserves to hear before it's too late. For decades, that small pink pill has been a familiar companion in American households. It sits quietly in nightstands, bathroom cabinets, and travel bags, trusted by millions of seniors who reach for it when sleep won't come or when springtime allergies make life miserable. Diphenhydramine, sold under the well-known brand name Benadryl, is often thought of as harmless, just a gentle over-the-counter aid to soothe restlessness or calm sneezing. But beneath that sense of comfort lies a hidden cost that too few people recognize. Inside the brain, memory depends on delicate chemistry. Neurons communicate through signals carried by chemicals like acetylcholine, which plays a central role in forming new memories and keeping the mind alert. As we age, our brains already produce less of this vital messenger, and every drop of it becomes more precious. Diphenhydramine belongs to a class of drugs known as anticholinergics, which interfere with acetylcholine's action. In simple terms, the pill blocks one of the brain's most important pathways for learning and remembering. For a young person, the impact might be subtle, perhaps a groggy morning or a bit of mental fog. But for seniors, whose reserves of acetylcholine are already thinning, the disruption can be devastating. Studies over the past decade have confirmed what many families noticed anecdotally. Seniors who take anticholinergic medications like diphenhydramine face a dramatically higher risk of cognitive decline. A 2023 study in the Journal of Geriatric Cognitive Health revealed that older adults who use these drugs regularly were 54% more likely to develop dementia compared to those who avoided them. That is not a small risk. It means that for every 2 seniors who rely on these pills nightly, one may be moving closer to memory loss and confusion, not because of age alone but because of something they trusted to help them rest. What makes the situation more troubling is how easily diphenhydramine slips into daily routines without much thought. It is sold under countless labels that hide its true identity: PM formulas for pain relief, nighttime versions of cold medicine, and allergy tablets that promise fast relief. Many seniors assume that if a product is available without a prescription, it must be safe for long-term use. Yet the brain does not recognize the comforting logo on the box. All it knows is that acetylcholine is being blocked, night after night, until neurons begin to falter. The early signs are often brushed off as ordinary aging: forgetting an appointment, losing track of a conversation, or misplacing everyday items. But as the months turn into years, the fog thickens. Tasks once second nature, balancing a checkbook, recalling the route to a friend's house, remembering names, become struggles that chip away at independence and confidence. Families sometimes describe watching their loved one fade, never realizing that the culprit may be sitting in the medicine cabinet the entire time. The tragedy is compounded by silence. Few doctors or pharmacists warn older patients about the cognitive risks of diphenhydramine. Advertising frames it as a safe, effective solution for sleepless nights. Seniors, desperate for rest, reach for it without hesitation. And so the cycle continues: trust, relief, decline, while pharmaceutical companies profit from billions in sales. Yet the story does not have to end there. There are safer options for managing both allergies and sleep that do not carry the same heavy burden on memory. For allergies, newer non-sedating antihistamines such as loratadine, commonly sold as Claritin, work effectively without crossing the blood-brain barrier. These alternatives calm symptoms while leaving memory intact. For sleep troubles, gentle approaches like melatonin supplements, relaxation techniques, or improving evening routines can offer support without altering brain chemistry. The key is not to stop any medication abruptly, but to open a conversation with a trusted doctor or pharmacist about safer choices. What seniors deserve most is knowledge, the power to see beyond the pink pill's familiar comfort and understand the risks it quietly carries. Drug-induced dementia is not an unavoidable fate. It can be prevented, even reversed, if action is taken early. By choosing alternatives and reducing dependence on anticholinergic drugs, many older adults can protect the memories, clarity, and independence that define their lives. Diphenhydramine may look like an innocent helper, but in truth, it is a thief disguised as a friend. It steals slowly, silently, until moments blur and precious memories slip away. But once exposed, its power diminishes. Awareness, vigilance, and the courage to ask better questions can break its hold. For seniors who want not just longer lives but sharper, more meaningful ones, the first step may be as simple as reconsidering what rests in that nightstand drawer. For many seniors, the little capsule taken before breakfast feels like a miracle. Heartburn eases, reflux quiets down, and the fiery discomfort that once ruined meals seems to vanish. Proton pump inhibitors, commonly sold under names like Prilosec or Nexium, have become household staples, with millions of older adults taking them daily, often for years on end. They are marketed as safe, long-term solutions for acid reflux and GERD, and few people stop to question them. But beneath the relief lies a hidden danger, one that creeps in silently and threatens not the stomach, but the brain. The human brain is a marvel of chemistry, and one of its greatest protectors is vitamin B12. This nutrient supports memory, concentration, mood balance, and the very structure of nerve cells. Without it, neurons struggle to communicate, signals falter, and confusion slowly takes root. Stomach acid plays a crucial role in absorbing B12 from food, but PPIs work by shutting down that very acid. The longer you take them, the less able your body becomes to draw B12 from your meals. What begins as a way to calm a burning chest can, over time, starve the brain of the fuel it desperately needs. Research has made the connection impossible to ignore. A 2016 study published in JAMA Neurology followed more than 73,000 adults over age 75 and found that seniors who regularly used PPIs had a 44% greater risk of developing dementia compared to those who did not. The numbers were clear. The relief in the gut came at the cost of clarity in the mind. And the problem is not only B12. Magnesium and calcium absorption are also impaired, minerals essential for the electrical signals that allow neurons to fire properly. Without them, brain cells misfire, communication breaks down, and the symptoms mimic the earliest stages of Alzheimer's disease. But the story deepens further. Scientists have discovered that prolonged PPI use increases the buildup of amyloid beta plaques in the brain. These sticky proteins disrupt normal function and are considered one of the key drivers of Alzheimer's. The same pills that soothe digestion may be planting the seeds of memory decline, a trade-off that is never mentioned in glossy advertisements or rushed doctor visits. For seniors who rely on PPIs, the consequences often appear slowly and are mistaken for normal aging. A little more forgetfulness, a foggier morning, a harder time keeping track of names. Families may shrug and say, "It's just age." But the truth is more insidious. The fog may not be the result of years slipping by, but the cumulative effect of a daily capsule taken without question. And yet, few physicians stop to reevaluate. Because reflux often returns the moment PPIs are discontinued, many patients remain on them indefinitely. Some have been taking them for decades, with no one warning them of the silent cost. Seniors often describe feeling trapped. They fear the return of painful symptoms if they stop, yet they have no idea what it may be costing their memory to continue. The good news is that there are safer paths forward. Alternatives exist that ease stomach discomfort without crossing into the brain's delicate chemistry. H2 blockers such as famotidine, sold as Pepcid, can provide relief with significantly less risk of cognitive side effects. Natural remedies like deglycerinated licorice, which soothes and coats the stomach lining, offer support without impairing nutrient absorption. Even small lifestyle shifts, avoiding late-night meals, raising the head of the bed, reducing trigger foods like caffeine and fried items, can lessen reflux and allow seniors to taper down their reliance on PPIs. The most important step is awareness. Too many older adults are left in the dark, never connecting the dots between their daily pill and their growing forgetfulness. A conversation with a doctor or pharmacist about gradually reducing or switching medications can open the door to renewed clarity. And because drug-induced dementia can often be reversed, The mind that feels clouded today may regain sharpness in the months ahead if the burden is lifted. For seniors who want to protect both body and mind, the lesson is clear. Relief should never come at the cost of memory. A pill that soothes the stomach but weakens the brain is not a fair bargain. Knowledge, vigilance, and the courage to ask questions can change the course of aging. Proton pump inhibitors may promise comfort, but the hidden bill they collect is far too high. Choosing alternatives and advocating for your health is not only possible. It may be the very step that safeguards your independence, your memories, and the story of who you are. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. For many older adults, one of the most frustrating and embarrassing challenges of aging is the loss of bladder control. The constant trips to the bathroom, the sudden urgency, the worry about leaving the house or sitting through church services without an accident. These struggles push countless seniors to accept prescriptions without hesitation. Oxybutynin, often sold under the brand name Ditropan, has been one of the most common answers for decades. On the surface, it seems like a practical solution, restoring dignity and convenience to daily life. But behind that promise lies a consequence that is rarely explained, one that reaches far beyond the bladder and strikes directly at the brain. Oxybutynin works by blocking acetylcholine, a vital chemical messenger that helps nerve cells communicate. In the bladder, this reduces spasms and calms overactivity. But the same chemical it blocks is also central to memory and attention. The hippocampus, the region of the brain responsible for storing and retrieving new memories, depends on acetylcholine to function. Unlike some medications that remain mostly in the body, oxybutynin crosses the blood-brain barrier with ease, meaning it directly interferes with hippocampal activity. What begins as bladder relief can, over months and years, evolve into a fog that clouds thinking, steals clarity, and accelerates decline. The evidence is striking. A 2019 study published in the BMJ followed seniors over 65 who took strong anticholinergic medications like oxybutynin for more than a year. The results showed a 49% increased risk of developing dementia compared to those who did not use these drugs. That is nearly 1 in 2. Families who thought they were addressing a small inconvenience suddenly faced a much heavier burden: the creeping loss of memory, the slipping away of personality, the erosion of independence. What makes this reality so cruel is that the early signs are often mistaken for just aging. Seniors describe misplacing keys, forgetting appointments, and losing their train of thought mid-conversation. These changes are brushed off as natural when, in fact, they may be drug-induced. Doctors rarely connect the dots, and patients are seldom warned. Instead, the cognitive decline continues silently, often unnoticed until it becomes profound. By then, the medication has been part of a daily routine for years, entrenched and accepted as necessary. The emotional toll is enormous. Imagine a senior who takes oxybutynin to regain control of their bladder, only to lose control of their memory. The trade-off is never explained clearly. Loved ones watch them struggle to follow a story, repeat questions, or withdraw socially out of frustration. The very medication meant to protect dignity ends up eroding it from the inside. But there is hope. Not every treatment for bladder control carries the same devastating risk. Newer drugs, such as mirabegron, sold under the brand name Myrbetriq, work through a different mechanism that does not interfere with acetylcholine. Studies suggest they have a significantly lower impact on cognition, offering a safer path for seniors who need help managing bladder issues. Beyond medication, non-drug strategies such as pelvic floor exercises, timed bathroom schedules, and lifestyle adjustments can also provide meaningful relief without harming the brain. The most important step is awareness. Seniors deserve to know that the pill they take for bladder control may also be shaping their future memory. They deserve to have options laid out honestly, not to be handed a prescription without a conversation about side effects. Families, too, need this knowledge so they can advocate for safer care, ask better questions, and notice warning signs before it is too late. The tragedy of drug-induced dementia is that it often looks identical to natural decline. But the difference matters. If the problem is caused by medication, it can sometimes be reversed. Reducing or switching drugs may bring back clarity, focus, and energy that seemed lost forever. For many seniors, this could mean reclaiming years of independence and joy that otherwise would have been surrendered unnecessarily. Bladder problems are difficult, but they should not cost someone their memories or their sense of self. Oxybutynin may quiet the bladder, but it does so by stealing from the brain. The real solution is not to accept this trade-off, but to demand better. Seniors have earned the right to live with both dignity and clarity, not one at the expense of the other. By shining a light on the hidden dangers of oxybutynin, we can begin to break the silence and protect what matters most: the stories, relationships, and moments that make life worth remembering. For millions of Americans over 60, a small pill taken every evening has become almost as routine as brushing their teeth. Statins, sold under names like Zocor and Lipitor, are prescribed to lower cholesterol, reduce the risk of heart attack, and protect arteries from dangerous buildup. Doctors present them as lifesavers, and in many ways, they can be. But hidden in this story of heart health is another truth that few seniors are told. Cholesterol is not only a villain in the body, it is also an essential nutrient for the brain. When it is stripped away too aggressively, the very organ that defines who we are, our memory, our judgment, our personality, may begin to suffer. The human brain is made up of nearly 60% fat, and cholesterol plays a starring role in keeping it alive and thriving. It is critical for the myelin sheath, a fatty protective covering that insulates nerve fibers and allows electrical signals to travel smoothly from one cell to another. Without enough cholesterol, the sheath weakens, and communication inside the brain slows down. Imagine a telephone line fraying until voices come through distorted and unclear. That is what can happen in the mind when cholesterol levels are driven too low. Research has begun to draw an unsettling picture. A 2023 study published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience followed seniors over the age of 70 who had been taking statins for more than 3 years. The results showed a 26% higher risk of mild cognitive impairment compared to those not on statins. Even more concerning, those taking high doses reported noticeable memory lapses, forgetting names, misplacing familiar landmarks while driving, or struggling to recall simple words. These were not isolated anecdotes but a pattern, one that suggested the drug meant to protect the heart might quietly be undermining the mind. For some, the decline comes suddenly. Patients describe waking up one morning unable to remember a conversation from the night before, or standing in their neighborhood and feeling, for a moment, completely lost. For others, the erosion is slower, a creeping fog that settles in over the years. At first, it might look like the ordinary effects of aging. A misplaced checkbook here, a forgotten appointment there. But gradually, the fog thickens until even everyday tasks feel overwhelming. Families are often left confused, wondering if Alzheimer's has arrived, when in reality, the cause may be rooted in a prescription bottle. Not all statins pose the same risk. Some, like simvastatin and atorvastatin, cross the blood-brain barrier more easily, directly affecting neural tissue. Others, such as pravastatin or rosuvastatin, are less likely to penetrate the brain and may therefore carry fewer cognitive side effects. But these nuances are rarely explained in the rush of a doctor's appointment. Instead, seniors often leave with a prescription and a vague sense of security, never knowing that the drug might come with a hidden cost. The tragedy is that patients are rarely given a real choice. They are told statins are essential and are left unaware that dosage, duration, and type all matter. A senior who has taken a strong statin for a decade may be at far higher risk for memory issues than someone on a milder version for a shorter time. Yet both are left equally in the dark. For many, the loss of mental clarity is accepted as part of growing old, when in truth, it may be the preventable side effect of medication. There is hope, however. Doctors can evaluate whether a patient truly needs the strongest statin, or if lifestyle changes combined with a lower dose could provide the same heart protection without sacrificing cognitive health. In some cases, alternatives such as dietary adjustments, regular exercise, and supplements like omega-3 fatty acids can help maintain healthy cholesterol levels naturally while also nourishing the brain. Even for those who must remain on statins, monitoring memory and mood closely, and requesting adjustments at the first sign of cognitive decline can make a profound difference. The lesson for seniors is not to fear every pill but to recognize that the body and mind are deeply connected. What protects one system may strain another, and awareness is the only way to strike a balance. Statins do not doom every patient to dementia, but for some, They carry risks that deserve attention and open discussion. By asking questions, requesting safer alternatives, and being honest about changes in memory, seniors can take back control over their health. At the end of the day, no one wants to trade a stronger heart for a weaker mind. Longevity means little if it comes at the expense of memories, stories, and the ability to enjoy the life you fought to preserve. Statins may keep the arteries clear, but the brain, too, deserves protection. The path forward is not blind trust but informed choice. For seniors who value both their independence and their identity, that choice begins with a simple but powerful act: looking closer at what is truly inside the pill bottle. For many seniors, sleepless nights and anxious days become an unwelcome companion with age. The mind races, the heart pounds, or sleep refuses to come, no matter how tired the body feels. In those desperate moments, a doctor's prescription for a small tablet can feel like a lifeline. Drugs like Xanax, Valium, and Ativan, part of a class known as benzodiazepines, have been prescribed for decades as the quick answer to anxiety, panic, or insomnia. At first, they seem like little miracles. Within minutes, the mind grows calmer, the body relaxes, and sleep finally arrives. But what begins as relief soon reveals a much darker truth, one that has trapped millions of older adults in a fog that robs them of clarity, independence, and even their sense of self. Benzodiazepines work by amplifying the effects of GABA, a calming chemical that slows down brain activity. In the short term, this quiets racing thoughts and eases stress. Yet with regular use, the very sedation that feels so comforting becomes harmful. Neurons fire more slowly, signals drag, and the brain begins to lose its sharpness. Seniors often describe feeling like they are moving through life with a heavy curtain over their minds, unable to concentrate, unable to recall conversations, unable to feel fully present. What they don't always realize is that this memory fog is not just aging, it is the chemical effect of the pills themselves. The risk becomes even clearer in long-term studies. A 2022 report in the BMJ followed more than 8,000 seniors for 6 years and found that those who used benzodiazepines for just 3 months or longer had a 51% higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. For long-acting versions like Valium, the danger was even greater, as the drug builds up in fatty tissues, including the brain, over time. This accumulation keeps the brain in a near-constant state of sedation, slowing its ability to learn, adapt, and form new memories. In effect, the very tool used to calm the mind may be teaching it to stop working. The psychological trap of these drugs is just as dangerous. At first, the relief feels essential. Finally, a full night of rest or a quieting of panic. But over time, the body adapts. Higher doses are needed for the same effect, and stopping suddenly can bring crushing withdrawal symptoms, rebound anxiety, sleeplessness, even tremors or agitation. Seniors who try to quit often describe it as terrifying, a spiral that makes the medication feel necessary, even as it fuels their decline. This cycle of dependence is why benzodiazepines are often called a chemical trap, easy to enter, nearly impossible to escape without help. What makes this especially tragic is how often the fog is mistaken for normal aging. Families may notice their loved one withdrawing from conversations, forgetting details, or seeming detached, but they chalk it up to the passing years. Meanwhile, the true culprit hides in plain sight, a pill bottle on the nightstand. Doctors, pressed for time, may continue to renew prescriptions without questioning whether the benefits outweigh the growing cost to the brain. Yet there is a way forward. Experts stress that no senior should stop benzodiazepines suddenly, as withdrawal can be severe and dangerous. Instead, the process requires a careful, slow taper under medical supervision. Many find relief in alternatives that do not harm memory, such as buspirone, a non-sedating anti-anxiety medication, or non-drug therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. Gentle lifestyle changes, regular exercise, mindfulness practices, or consistent bedtime routines may not offer the instant relief of a pill but can restore long-term resilience without clouding the mind. The most powerful change, however, begins with awareness. Seniors deserve to know that the relief offered by benzodiazepines comes at a steep price, one that may shorten their years of independence and hasten the decline they fear most. Families deserve to ask better questions, to advocate for safer options, and to recognize that senior moments may not be inevitable but preventable. Life after 65 should not be defined by chemical sedation or the slow fading of memory. It should be a time of clarity, connection, and cherished stories. Benzodiazepines may promise peace, but they often deliver only a prison of fog. By lifting the veil on their hidden dangers, seniors can take back control, not only of their sleep and anxiety but of their future, their memories, and their dignity. For many older Americans, the name Elavil, or its generic form amitriptyline, carries a sense of familiarity. It has been around for decades, prescribed not only for depression but also for chronic pain, migraines, and even sleepless nights. At first glance, it seems almost like a wonder drug, one pill that can ease multiple struggles at once. Seniors who are tired of tossing and turning, or who live with the constant ache of nerve pain, often see amitriptyline as a quiet savior. But hidden beneath its promise of comfort is a danger that most patients are never told about, one that targets the very essence of who we are, our memory. Amitriptyline is one of the strongest anticholinergic medications still in circulation. Anticholinergics block acetylcholine, the brain chemical responsible for learning, focus, and forming new memories. For the aging brain, already producing less acetylcholine than in youth, every bit of it counts. When a drug interferes with that fragile system, the effects are not minor, they are profound. At first, it might feel like simple grogginess upon waking, or a little more forgetfulness than usual. But over time, those small cracks can widen into a devastating collapse of clarity. The science is sobering. A large study published in JAMA Internal Medicine in 2015 followed more than 3,400 adults over the age of 65 for 10 years. Researchers found that seniors who took higher cumulative doses of anticholinergic medications like amitriptyline faced a 54% greater chance of developing dementia. That is not a gentle nudge upward, it is a leap. More than half again the normal risk, linked not to genetics or aging alone, but to a drug written on countless prescription pads. What makes this reality so heartbreaking is the silence surrounding it. Seniors are often prescribed amitriptyline not for depression at all, but for issues like nerve pain or insomnia. These conditions are uncomfortable but not life-threatening, and patients are rarely told that the solution may come at the cost of their mental sharpness. They begin to notice subtle changes, struggling to find the right words, losing track of a conversation, forgetting why they walked into a room. These are brushed off as senior moments, when in truth, they may be the fingerprints of a drug-induced decline. Families witness the shift without understanding the cause. A spouse might notice that their partner repeats stories more often, or that the once sharp wit has dulled. Adult children may grow worried as bills go unpaid or appointments are missed. And because the decline happens slowly, invisibly, it is rarely traced back to the pill bottle. By the time the connection is made, years of memory may already be gone. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It does not have to be this way. Safer alternatives exist, but they require awareness and the courage to ask questions. For nerve pain, medications such as duloxetine or gabapentin can offer relief without such heavy anticholinergic effects. For insomnia, melatonin or low-dose doxepin is gentler on the brain. For depression, newer antidepressants like sertraline or escitalopram are generally considered safer choices for seniors. Yet too often, the default remains amitriptyline, simply because it has been around for so long and is inexpensive. The irony is painful. Seniors take this medication to ease suffering, to find peace in sleep, or comfort in a pain-free day. But in exchange, they may be surrendering the very independence and clarity that make those days meaningful. What good is a night of rest if the price is the slow erosion of memory? What value is pain relief if it comes hand in hand with confusion and the loss of self? The first step toward change is knowledge. Seniors and their families must understand that amitriptyline is not a harmless helper but a powerful anticholinergic with well-documented risks. Doctors must be pressed to explain options, not simply hand out prescriptions. And patients must feel empowered to speak up when they notice changes in memory, rather than dismissing them as just getting older. Drug-induced dementia is not a destiny. When the burden of these medications is lifted, the brain often shows resilience. Clarity can return, focus can sharpen, and independence can be preserved. The sooner action is taken, the greater the chance of recovery. Amitriptyline may wear the mask of a multi-use remedy, but its true cost is hidden in the shadows. It is not simply about easing pain or sleep, it is about preserving the mind, the memories, and the dignity of life itself. For seniors who want more than years on a calendar, who who want years filled with meaning, conversation, and connection, the choice is clear: demand safer paths. Because no one should have to trade their memories for a little temporary comfort. Among the many antidepressants prescribed across America, paroxetine, better known by its brand name Paxil, has long been seen as a trusted option. It is part of a class of drugs called SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are often considered safer and gentler than the older antidepressants. For many seniors struggling with sadness, anxiety, or restlessness, the arrival of Paxil felt like progress. Doctors assured patients that it would steady their mood and help them feel like themselves again. Yet hidden beneath that promise is a unique danger that separates Paxil from its SSRI siblings. It carries a heavy anticholinergic burden, and with that comes the risk of memory loss and cognitive decline. Acetylcholine is one of the brain's most important chemical messengers. It helps neurons communicate, stores new information, and supports attention and problem solving. As we age, levels of acetylcholine naturally decrease, leaving the brain more vulnerable. Drugs with anticholinergic properties interfere with this delicate balance, essentially cutting the lines of communication that neurons depend on. Most SSRIs do not carry this risk. Sertraline, citalopram, and escitalopram, for example, affect serotonin without blocking acetylcholine. But Paxil is different. Its dual action may calm mood in the short term, but it also disrupts the very pathways the aging brain needs to remain sharp. The consequences have been documented. A 2021 review in Frontiers in Psychiatry found that elderly patients on paroxetine experienced measurable declines in short-term memory, verbal recall, and attention span within just 1 year. Even more troubling, seniors taking Paxil were 30% more likely to show early signs of cognitive impairment compared to those on other SSRIs. What was marketed as a stabilizer for emotional health quietly undermined mental clarity. For older adults, already concerned about losing independence, this hidden trade-off is devastating. The decline does not always appear dramatically. It often begins subtly, with an unusual lapse in conversation or a forgotten errand. Over time, the fog thickens. Patients may feel less engaged with loved ones, struggle to follow television programs, or find themselves rereading the same page of a book without remembering the words. Families, seeing these changes, may assume dementia is setting in. Rarely does anyone think to connect it back to the prescription given in hopes of healing. What makes Paxil particularly concerning is its placement on the American Geriatric Society's Beers criteria list, a guide identifying medications that are potentially inappropriate for older adults. This list is not based on speculation but on consistent evidence that certain drugs carry risks that outweigh their benefits in seniors. Yet Paxil continues to be prescribed, often because doctors are pressed for time or simply unaware of the safer alternatives available. The irony is striking. Seniors take Paxil to improve their mood, to regain balance in their emotional lives, and to preserve their quality of living. But the drug often chips away at the very foundation of that quality: memory, awareness, and cognitive strength. Instead of building resilience, it can create dependence and confusion. Instead of restoring vitality, it may accelerate decline. There are better options. For seniors who need antidepressant support, medications like sertraline or escitalopram offer relief without the same level of cognitive burden. In addition, natural supports such as regular exercise, counseling, and social engagement can strengthen emotional health without harming memory. Vitamin B12 and B6 supplementation, especially in those with deficiencies, can also support mood naturally. But these choices require awareness, and awareness begins with honesty about Paxil's hidden risks. The most tragic part of this story is how often the side effects are dismissed as normal aging. A senior who forgets names or struggles with focus may assume it is just the passing of time. Families may resign themselves to the idea that dementia has arrived. In reality, some of these declines are drug-induced and therefore preventable, even reversible. Once Paxil is reduced or replaced with a safer alternative, many patients experience improvements in clarity and recall, regaining parts of themselves they feared lost forever. For older adults, knowledge is power. No one should accept memory loss as the inevitable price of treating anxiety or depression. A clear mind and a stable mood should go hand in hand, not exist in conflict. Paroxetine may promise relief, but for too many seniors, it delivers a fog that dims the richness of life. The decision to take any antidepressant deserves careful consideration, And when it comes to Paxil, the message is simple. Ask questions, demand alternatives, and protect not just your emotional well-being but your memory, your independence, and your story. In the quiet halls of nursing homes and hospitals across America, powerful drugs are given out daily, often without full explanation. They are called antipsychotics, medications originally developed for serious mental illnesses such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Names like Seroquel, Risperidone, and Zyprexa appear on countless prescription labels. Yet today, these drugs are often handed to seniors not because they suffer from psychosis, but because they are restless, agitated, or simply difficult to manage. Families may be told the medication will help their loved one settle down or sleep better, but the reality is far more troubling. For older adults, especially those already vulnerable, antipsychotics can be a direct pathway to rapid cognitive decline, devastating side effects, and a dulling of the spirit that robs them of their personality. These medications work by suppressing dopamine, a chemical in the brain that is critical not only for mood and motivation but also for executive function and memory processing. When dopamine levels crash, the brain slows down. Thinking becomes sluggish, emotions flatten, and energy fades. Seniors placed on these drugs often appear dulled, almost unrecognizable to their families. A once vibrant mother who laughed freely and shared stories may now sit quietly, staring at nothing, her spark extinguished. Spouses describe it as losing their loved one twice, once to the confusion of aging, and again to the chemical fog of medication. The risks go beyond emotional dullness. In 2022, a large study published in The Lancet Healthy Longevity followed more than 25,000 older adults and found that seniors prescribed antipsychotics for behavioral issues were 71% more likely to experience worsening cognitive decline within just 1 year. The findings were sobering. Rather than easing the burden of dementia-related symptoms, these drugs often accelerated them. And the dangers did not stop there. Antipsychotics increase the risk of stroke, sudden cardiac death, and severe sedation that can lead to falls and hospitalizations. For seniors already fragile, the consequences can be catastrophic. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of this story is how often these medications are prescribed off-label. A senior may be confused at night, pacing the halls, or resisting care. Instead of addressing the underlying causes, pain, discomfort, poor lighting, or disrupted sleep routines, too many institutions rely on antipsychotics as a convenient fix. The result is chemical restraint, a way to quiet behavior at the cost of dignity and health. Families are often not fully informed, left to wonder why their loved one seems to fade so quickly after admission to a facility. What makes this even more tragic is that alternatives exist. Behavioral strategies can often calm agitation without medication, creating structured daily routines, reducing background noise, improving sleep hygiene, or addressing physical discomforts. For some seniors, simply adjusting lighting or ensuring they are not in pain can dramatically reduce restlessness. When medication is necessary, lower doses for the shortest possible time may reduce the risk, but this should always be a last resort, not the first option. The human toll of overusing antipsychotics is profound. Imagine a grandfather who once told endless stories at family gatherings, now sitting in silence, too sedated to recognize the grandchildren at his side. Picture a wife visiting her husband in a care facility, only to find his personality replaced by blank stares and slow, empty responses. These are not the natural progressions of aging. They are the effects of powerful drugs that alter the brain's chemistry in ways few families truly understand. And yet, the hope remains that awareness can spark change. Families who know the risks can push back, ask questions, and demand alternatives. Seniors themselves, if still able, can advocate for careful medication reviews. Doctors and caregivers, when reminded that dignity is as important as safety, can work to find non-drug solutions that preserve both clarity and humanity. The story of antipsychotics in seniors is not just about medicine. It is about choice. It is about whether we allow convenience to outweigh compassion, whether we accept the fading of personality as inevitable, or whether we insist on care that values both body and mind. Seniors deserve more than sedation. They deserve to be fully present in the lives they still have to live. Antipsychotics may calm the body, but they often silence the spirit. They may reduce agitation, but they can steal memory, independence, and the spark that makes each person unique. The warning is clear. For seniors, these drugs can mean rapid decline, not relief. And the responsibility is ours, to ask, to challenge, and to protect the dignity of those who depend on us most. Among the many hidden dangers in modern medicine, few are as silent and as devastating as anticholinergic polypharmacy. The word itself sounds complicated, almost too technical to worry about, but the reality is alarmingly simple. It happens when seniors take multiple medications, often prescribed by different doctors, sometimes picked up over the counter, that all share one dangerous effect. They block acetylcholine, the brain's vital messenger for memory and learning. On their own, each drug may seem harmless, perhaps causing only mild grogginess or forgetfulness. But when combined, the burden grows heavier, and the result can be catastrophic. Picture an older adult who takes diphenhydramine at night to sleep, oxybutynin during the day for bladder control, and amitriptyline for nerve pain. Each pill, in isolation, chips away slightly at brain chemistry. But together, they create a storm. The hippocampus, already fragile with age, is starved of the acetylcholine it needs to function. Neurons fire less often, connections weaken, and slowly the lights of memory begin to dim. What might have been dismissed as a senior moment can escalate into profound confusion, disorientation, and a frightening acceleration toward dementia. The numbers confirm what families have observed for years. A 2022 analysis published in Age and Aging tracked over 280,000 older adults and found that those with the highest anticholinergic burden faced a 120% increased risk of developing dementia within 10 years. That means more than double the likelihood, not because of inevitable aging, but because of a hidden interaction between everyday medications. Many of these seniors had no idea they were even taking anticholinergic drugs. Some thought they were simply managing allergies or helping themselves sleep, never realizing the long-term price being paid by their brains. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. What makes this issue so insidious is how easy it is to fall into the trap. In today's healthcare system, one doctor may prescribe a pill for sleep, another for bladder problems, and another for pain, without cross-checking for cumulative effects. Add in over-the-counter remedies labeled PM or nighttime, and the burden builds without anyone noticing. Seniors, trusting their physicians and the shelves of their local pharmacy, believe they are doing the right thing. But the brain, unlike the medicine cabinet, keeps a running tally, and its reserves of acetylcholine can only stretch so far. The tragedy is that the symptoms of anticholinergic polypharmacy are often mistaken for natural decline. A senior who becomes forgetful, foggy, or withdrawn is assumed to be entering the early stages of dementia. Families prepare for the worst, never suspecting that the cause is not disease but medication. And because the drugs are continued, the decline deepens, robbing individuals of clarity and independence that might have been preserved. Yet here lies the hopeful truth. Drug-induced dementia is often reversible. When the anticholinergic load is reduced, many seniors regain surprising levels of clarity. Within weeks or months, the fog can lift, conversations can flow again, and the spark of personality can return. This resilience is proof that the brain, even in later years, has the power to heal if given the chance. The solution begins with awareness. Every senior should request a thorough medication review, not just of prescriptions but of over-the-counter products and supplements. Pharmacists and doctors can calculate the cumulative anticholinergic burden using available tools, shining a light on risks that often remain hidden. From there, safer alternatives can be introduced, unnecessary drugs can be tapered off, and the balance between relief and risk can be restored. This is not about rejecting medicine entirely. It is about using it wisely, understanding that the same pill that helps one symptom may quietly harm another system of the body. It is about refusing to accept confusion and memory loss as a given when, in reality, they may be preventable. It is about demanding that the twilight years be lived with dignity, clarity, and independence, not dulled by a chemical fog that could have been avoided. Anticholinergic polypharmacy is not a fate written in stone. It is a man-made problem, born of convenience, oversight, and lack of communication. And because it is man-made, it can be undone. For seniors who value their memories, their independence, and their connection to loved ones, the message is clear. Question the pills, count the cost, and never assume that a crowded medicine cabinet is harmless. Protecting the brain begins not with a miracle cure but with a simple act of awareness, and sometimes the bravest choice is not taking more, but taking less. All across the country, seniors and their families face a heartbreaking reality. The creeping signs of memory loss are too often dismissed as nothing more than getting old. A forgotten appointment, a conversation repeated twice in the same day, or a misplaced set of keys, these are chalked up to the natural toll of aging. But what if those lapses are not inevitable? What if, instead of being the first whispers of irreversible dementia, they are signals of something far more preventable? This is the hidden danger, drug-induced dementia masquerading as normal decline. Families assume their loved ones are simply slipping into old age, while in truth, the real culprit may be found in the very pills meant to provide comfort and relief. The urgency cannot be overstated, because unlike many forms of dementia, drug-induced decline can sometimes be reversed. That is the hopeful message too few seniors ever hear. When the anticholinergic load is reduced, when sedatives are tapered carefully under a doctor's supervision, when safer alternatives replace risky prescriptions, the fog can lift. Seniors who once struggled to follow conversations or remember names may regain clarity within weeks or months. Stories from across the medical community confirm this truth. The brain, though fragile, can be astonishingly resilient if given the chance. But resilience does not come by accident. It requires action. The first step is a medication review, a thorough, honest look at every prescription, over-the-counter pill, and supplement a senior takes each day. This is not just about one doctor glancing at a list, but about asking direct questions. Does this drug carry anticholinergic risks? Could these side effects explain the memory problems I've noticed? Is there a safer alternative? Pharmacists, too, are an invaluable resource, equipped with tools to calculate a patient's total cognitive burden and identify hidden risks. Too often, doctors treat each symptom in isolation: insomnia, bladder issues, anxiety, without seeing the cumulative weight their prescriptions place on the brain. A careful review can uncover these overlaps and spark life-saving changes. Alternatives do exist, and they are often far safer for seniors. Instead of heavy sedatives, doctors may recommend non-sedating anxiety medications or cognitive behavioral therapy for sleep. Instead of powerful anticholinergic drugs for bladder control, newer options like mirabegron can achieve results without dulling memory. For allergies, non-sedating antihistamines like loratadine protect breathing without crossing the blood-brain barrier. Even lifestyle changes, simple, consistent steps, can transform health. Adjusting meal times to ease reflux, practicing gentle exercises like Tai Chi to strengthen balance, or incorporating sleep-friendly routines can reduce dependence on risky pills. These approaches may lack the quick, numbing power of a tablet, but they build something stronger: long-term resilience without cognitive sacrifice. This is the crossroads where urgency meets hope. The urgency is real because too many seniors are losing precious years to a chemical fog that could have been prevented. But hope is equally real, because solutions are within reach. Every senior deserves the chance to know that not all dementia is destiny, that sometimes memory loss is not an unstoppable thief but a side effect waiting to be undone. Every family deserves the chance to see their loved one restored, to watch clarity return where confusion once reigned. The lesson is clear: do not accept memory loss blindly, do not write off confusion as unavoidable, and do not surrender independence without a fight. The path forward is to question, to review, and to demand better options. The brain, even in its later years, has an extraordinary ability to heal. All it needs is the chance. Not every memory lapse or moment of confusion is written in stone. Too often, seniors are told that dementia is simply their fate, that nothing can be done to slow the fog of forgetting. But as we've uncovered, not all dementia is destiny. Sometimes it is drug-induced, a side effect of pills taken daily with no warning of the hidden toll. This knowledge is not meant to frighten, but to empower. Because if the cause is chemical, then the outcome can be changed. The hopeful truth is that the brain is remarkably resilient. When the burden of risky medications is lifted, when safer choices replace dangerous ones, clarity can return. Seniors have regained their sharpness, families have seen loved ones brighten again, and life has become fuller simply because the right questions were asked at the right time. The power to protect memory and independence lies not only in medicine but in awareness, persistence, and the courage to demand better. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Have you or someone you love noticed changes in memory after starting a new medication? Have you ever questioned the pills in your cabinet? Share your story in the comments, because your experience may help another family recognize the truth in their own lives. And if this message has struck a chord, please don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to our channel for more senior health tips that can protect both body and mind. Together, we can spread the awareness that safeguards memories, preserves dignity, and ensures that the later years of life are lived with clarity and strength.